My name is Robert Menton, and I'm based here in the Detroit market. I was in the automobile business for 45 years. So I had a friend that, oh my gosh, this is in 1977. He talked about, Robert, you should really consider the car business because I think you have a lot to offer with communication skills and my punctuality and some other things that he thought it would lend itself well to the dealership world. So I went out and interviewed at about a dozen different dealerships in my area, again, the Detroit market. And I kind of narrowed it down to 4 or 5 where I got a good sense or feel for how they spoke about their stores, and they did hire rookies and what the training process would be like, things like that. And then I just hounded them to death until one day, one of the sales managers asked me, will you be this persistent with the customers as you are with us? And I said, absolutely, if that's what it takes. So he hired me. Data is king. It tells you things that you might want to ignore, but you can't. You have to look at it for what it is. Now, are there times when dealers will look at the data and have a different opinion? A lot, most of the time. But if they look at it for what it's worth, it will tell a story that they then need to celebrate, embrace, or take a hard look at what they're doing to change the data. I got a call from Robert Morris, my boss, and talked about, what are you doing? You've had a couple of years in retirement. What do you think about getting back and engaged? This is what we're thinking. And it was very, very intriguing. I was a customer of TVI. Now, most dealerships use whatever the flavor of the month is from the manufacturer. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with getting something from the manufacturer, but we knew there had to be a better way. And when we heard what TVI was doing and how they were targeting not just our customers, but people who drove that brand in our backyard, whether they bought it from a Ford store and it's a new Subaru registered in that area, or a change of address that we didn't know about, or all the things that we're looking at right now to present to dealers, was a no-brainer for us because it spoke to what you can do on the fixed ops side to bring in new customers, and more importantly, to re-engage the customers who used to use you but no longer do. And the question is, where did they go? The sales department may sell you your first car, but the service department sells everyone after that, because you can have a great price on a car, great lease payment, whatever it might be, but if they're not being serviced properly in a timely manner, the chances of them going someplace else, it's more likely that they would leave because of a poor service experience than maybe the price of the car when they were negotiating to buy or lease it. And then once I became a general manager, you're now wearing one hat that encompasses all departments, whether it be the service department, the BDC, the body shop, the parts department, sales, leasing, all of it. You then had to take a much deeper dive into, real simple, how are the bills being paid? And when you talk about a retention rate, it's huge when a dealer can tell you that their absorption rate is 80%. That's huge. That's a gigantic number, and pays a ton of the bills before you even open the doors the first of the month. The ones that struggle with an absorption rate at 40 or 45 or even less have a long way to make up from where they probably could be. And the first place to look, of course, is how are they engaging the service customer? They just roll in the doors every morning, hoping that there's a line outside there. And when they come in, you can sell them something more than a oil change and tire rotation or a flush or whatever it might be. It goes back to how are you going to increase that line, which most of the time sales managers, I was one very early in my career, I didn't pay a lot of attention to it until I realized, and it was told me and showed me, sales sells you your first one and service sells everyone after that. You can't have just a sales manager meeting where it's just the general manager and the sales manager and the staff. When you would have a manager's meeting, all hands on deck. Parts is there, service is there, BDCs are there, sales departments are there, used cars managers are there. That way, it might only be a 5 or 10 minute presentation that manager does for the overall success or bottom line of the store. Questions start to be asked, and like anything, you don't know what you don't know until it's asked. So at the end of the day, when a service manager is struggling with something, you might find the sales manager has the answer, or the parts manager has the answer, or the BDC manager has the answer. So sometimes a saying gets overused, or it loses a little bit of its luster when somebody says, I know what it's like to be in your shoes, or to be in your chair, or to wear that hat. I do know, because I did sit in that chair, I did wear that hat, and I was pitched and presented what people thought were solutions to my problem. But what we would always say is, did they really understand your problem? Well, with TVI and MarketPro3, I know what their problem is. I don't care if your absorption rate is as high as you would think it could be. If you're not filling every bay with every hour available, there's room for growth. And what is that growth? Is it your heavy mechanics are looking for work? Is it the oil change guys and gals that get the car in for the first time and move it along into something else? But at the end of the day, the whole idea is I lived their world. When you're brand new green working the lube rack, you look around and you see all the other technicians, drivability, electronics, front and end, or whatever it might be. You know that if I could get to be on that rack, the alignment rack, I could make more money. And it looks like they always have work because they have more oil techs feeding that part of the dealer, of the shop. And at the end of the day, it's like, okay, what do you want to do? Where do you want to be? And it goes back to twofold. Being the best you can be for that store, and at the same time, you want to take every certification class you can to get your certs, and then be able to build that resume where you will be somebody that will be looked at as the next person to fill a hole when somebody moves out. I would always suggest that the fixed op directors and service managers take an hour, if you can, and not just lunch hour where you leave the building, but take an hour and take a step back to look at how everything is working. You know, we talked about a wheel and how each spoke holds it up and holds it rigid. Without the right spoke, or the spoke being addressed, it's going to have a flat spot. Fixed ops is given a hat to wear or a chair to sit in to grow that department. And there's so many different areas to grow: personnel, reputation, CSI, profitability, customer offerings, you name it, and I could just keep going. That's what they're responsible for. Unfortunately, what gets their attention is the fire drill. Somebody said something to somebody, something broke, something wasn't fixed properly. There's a customer waiting at the window to chew you out. Or rarely is there a customer waiting at the window to praise you and do. You will take those all day long. But you've got to carve out some time while you're at the store, not while you're away from the store, but while you're at the store, to observe what's the best way to streamline and make this process smoother. And for us, it's giving them the bandwidth to say, we'll take on the responsibility of driving customers to your lane. Not to say that the BDC doesn't, or anybody else, the manufacturer, but when it's specific to you, your customers, your backyard, your brand, we can say to them, we'll do the heavy lifting on this. All you are going to need to really do is take care of the customer once they show up.